Hello and welcome back, everybody. After a crazy series between EGA and 100 Thieves Academy, 4 Barons is what it took, and then it didn't even matter. There was just a team fight at the end. Absolutely insane stuff right there. We're getting ready for our next series of the day. So for right now, I want to remind everybody great thank you to one of our partners here, Playverse, and everything that they are doing in the Scholastic scene. Now, Playverse is Riot's official Scholastic partner for League of Legends, where thousands of high school players compete weekly for a state championship title, and players can earn a varsity letter for gaming with their friends. Now, enrollment is open now for their spring season, with preseason kicking off on January 31st. Make sure that you spread the word at your school and visit www.playverse.com. That's playvs.com. to get your team ready. So thank you, Playverses. This is something I really wish I had back when I was in high school, back when I actually had the fingers to play the game. But unfortunately, I did not have that opportunity. But I do have the opportunity to talk to some casters about League of Legends today. Marksy, Latigris, have the two of you had a chance to get some water, get some rest in? Because that was a long one. Okay, you're coming in right now. There we go. There. We're back now. We're back. Latigris, you feeling rested? How's the voice doing?
I was actually, so the fear I've had all day was, I got the typical play-by-play setup where I've got my water.
Yeah.
I've got my tea.
Ooh,
and then
I've
got my coffee, all for 3 different purposes. And I was like, one of these games is going to go hella long, and I'm going to feel like, did I doom myself with so much liquid? It wasn't that bad, though. So I'm just happy to be able to survive through it. Now chug some more water. What about you, Mark?
Do you have the honey in that tea?
Well, it's all right, that's good. Throat coat. So I don't actually have the honey in it because I realized too late that my honey expired, and by too late I mean I was still using it for like a couple weeks. And
it's all crystally and is like really thick.
A little extra flavor to it. So I thought, you know what? Let's just go clean with the throat coat for this one.
I recently got like a triple pack of honey, and it came in a big bunch, and I have no idea how I'm going to get through all that in time. But Marksy, throat is feeling all right after that one. I know you're not as used to Academy as casting LCS these days.
I feel good. I just chugged some coffee. You know, got to wake up after such a slow, boring game. You know, where nothing interesting was happening. It wasn't some crazy 40-minute, 8,000 objectives taking game. No.
Just 4 Barons. Just a casual 4 Barons. But that series is in the past. Now I want to bring our attention to the next series and our final series of the day. TSM Academy versus Golden Guardians Academy. Now, this one is interesting because TSM are currently sitting in last place. And yesterday they played against a team that they were tied with for last place, Latigris and FlyQuest, and they got 2-0'd. So they're sitting in a really rough spot right now.
I also personally found this interesting because this was literally the first game that Mark and I casted in LCS in lock-in when it was TSM Academy and Golden Guardians Academy playing. So I thought, oh my gosh, it's like full circle on our first Academy cast of the year. So I'm excited for it in that sense to see how much development has happened through that. I know that, TSM are not in the greatest spot as of late. So kind of digging into that a bit more. I know that coming into the season, we're thinking, okay, so Viper had a very strong showing last year, proving grounds champ with no Oregon Spring, still showed a lot of growth during his time on Immortals, and you're looking at him as this veteran leader that's expanding his champion pool. And then you've got the 3 mainstays of TSM Academy, in that you have Hyper, Takeover, and Yersan with Instinct being this new addition. So maybe hoping there to be a little more synergy. It feels like there's a lack of coordination in moments where we know the individual skill of these players and want to see them on full display, but not always being on the same page at the right moment. So I'm curious to see how they shore that up against Golden Guardians that have had a lot of power points through Ryoma and mid and the like, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Individual strengths for TSM Academy, not yet bringing it together is kind of the read that we have so far. But now their opponents on the Rift, Golden Guardians Academy. Marksy, I'm going to pass this one to you. Have you done your homework? And if so, what does it tell you about this team?
Tony Top looking better. When we were talking about him in that lock-in tournament kind of run that they went on, he was a little bit of the odd man out, I think, in a lot of ways, where there were names that everyone else should recognize who follows the LCS or Academy, Iconic, Chime, Stixay, Ryoma, all have had moments where they look pretty good. Tony Top kind of got taken advantage of. And that was what I was excited to see in their games yesterday, for example. Tony Top on the Tryndamere actually was popping off. Not only was he just playing the lane well, but I like to see how he was moving around the map and transferring your leads to other places. Anyone in solo queue knows how to, like, oh, I'm 2-0. I can now keep killing my opponent. But, like, how do you actually win a game from there? And I think that was one of the things I like to see a younger player learning, especially on a weird pick like Tryndamere, which does require you to be more selfish, still finding those windows to positively affect your team.
I'm telling you, you just got to play against Darshan enough times, and you start to learn the champ pools, learn the play styles. It's so good. But we also wanted to focus mostly on a specific matchup between these two teams, because mid lane, we haven't mentioned it yet, but kind of heavy hitters for both of these organizations, both of these rosters, rather, when we look at Ryoma versus TakeOver. Now, in particular, I want to start with TakeOver and TSM Academy's mid laner. Their coach, Ganasu, believes, he has said this on record, he thinks TakeOver has the potential already currently to be top 6 mid laners in LCS. He just hasn't been unlocked in terms of things like draft and then in-game decision-making and strategy to set him up for the level of playmaking that he can live up to. Those are bold statements, especially when he's against Ryoma, one of the mainstays here, who has won Proving Grounds last year. It's kind of a tough opponent for him to go up against, Mark.
I think it's a bold statement by the coach, gassing his player up. I appreciate it. And like you said, he'll get to prove it today against Ryoma. I think there's been, as you guys were kind of alluding to, moments and flashes of brilliance for most of the members on TSM. It's just that they flash at different times, and then they sometimes go dead. Those flashes fade away, and it's just hard to all get all of them on the same page. And I think that is unfortunately one of the things about League of Legends, is it's such a team game that even when someone's individually doing well, it can get overshadowed by the missteps that are going on around you. Whereas Ryoma has just been, like you said, a stud for a while at the top of Academy. So if he can individually stand out and hopefully lead his team to an actual W, then that's a huge step for TakeOver.
And the Tigers, I know that the conversation around Ryoma, it's almost polarizing. If you listen to the community and sentiment, got a lot of fans that talk him up, also has a lot of haters. And it's interesting to see because of, if you look at the eye test on the Rift, he's been having a pretty good split already. Even just the games yesterday, absolutely popping off on that Silas.
And I wonder how much of that hater mentality is carryover from his initial debut, where he received a lot of criticism thrown into the LCS, and then even, electing coming down to Academy and really focusing a lot on improving his play. Since then, we're seeing that consistency. We're seeing the potential of what he can bring through. But yes, maybe some fans that were tracking and have, that stark memory have a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth. But I think that he's shown a lot of strength throughout the last season. And I know that in his interviews going into the season, even talking about, I feel like I proved that I was the best mid laner in Academy in 2021. And now I'm coming back to prove more of the same. And a lot of the control mages and things, I mean, we just saw Nazir, right? We've seen him on that plenty of times, and a lot of the other picks performing very well for his team and continuing to do so here in the 2022 season.
Exactly. And now, of course, Academy as a whole, as a system, organizations can have different goals for what their Academy roster is meant to be, but in general, a lot of organizations lean to developing players. And Mark, when you look at a player like Ryoma, who's in a mid lane pool that has a lot of those developing players, Spyrax, Darkwings, TakeOver, even like Jimmy to an extent, because he's unproven in the North American League. Ryoma's kind of that rock that still is here and is almost like the mid laner that you want to show up against when you have the opportunity to.
I think he's a huge heat check for a lot of the players in Academy. Who want to make a name for themselves. If you can have a good series versus Ryoma, and not just in lane, because I think, sometimes people can have good matchups. They have in the early kill that goes to an early gank. But I always find Ryoma finding ways to be relevant in the mid to late game. And I think that's one of the biggest parts of Academy and why some teams are inconsistent, is when things don't go right initially, they just fall out of the game. Whereas it's really hard to completely knock Ryoma out of a matchup. So even if TakeOver has a good 10 minutes, has a good 15 minutes, are you going to have a good 30 minutes against Ryoma? That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's the type of player he is. You have to keep performing. And I'd say maybe Roma and Triple are probably the two mid laners that come to mind when I think of people that if they're 1-7 on Azir, they'll just flash shuffle to engage the fight, right? Like they're gonna change their role and adapt to it. So Takeover's got his work ahead of him, but it's exciting to see the development of such a young TSM Academy roster. But with that said, I'm hearing that we're ready to hop in to pick and ban for game number 1, the final series of the day. TSM Academy versus Golden Guardians Academy. Coming right up, LaTigris, take it away.
Let's go. Yeah, final best of 2 of the day. Myself and Mark bringing you through it. Like the mention of Triple is officially here, started making his play in Academy yesterday, I believe. So happy to see almost the entirety of the intended Academy players making their way over and into the actual games themselves. But here we are, getting into the draft between GG and TSM. Lee Sin taking off the board. Same thing for Caitlyn here. But I do want to see what TSM, for instance, end up deciding to do this game, because Instinct and Yurson, for instance, have been a great resource for them in terms of generating leads and performing expertly in some of these fights. So how can the rest of TSM maybe play around that for some advantages in this matchup against Golden Guardians?
It's an interesting question, as well as not just who they play around, but what strategies they want to opt into. It's a fairly open meta, and I feel like Instinct and Yurson are pretty aggressive and try to carry the game, and sometimes they do get leads in lane. And I would love to see maybe some resources devoted to propping them up, some enchanters in other lanes or something. Maybe they want to try that out for Takeover, as much as we're just hyping them up. And I know that's not a hype 1v1. Strategically, I appreciate those. Because I think the problem that TSM runs into is, when I was talking about that consistency point, is like Viper will have a good game, but that'll be a time where Instinct's having a bad game. And there'll be times where Viper struggles a little bit. Like he got solo killed against someone yesterday, I believe it was. And then, you know, that's exactly when Instinct, I think, got a solo kill himself. So they kind of pop off at different points in time. And if you get some more supportive, focused champions in there, it's less important that that one person pops off and you can put more eggs into a single basket.
I do wonder where, or if that's where some of the difficulty comes from on the side of TSM, knowing which direction to play into, as the first lock-ins here is Iconic on the trusted Jin Zhao, and then this leaves Jinx open as the first pick on the side of TSM. Because Viper, the story last year, oh, he's expanding his champion pool, he's diversifying his style, and then we've seen him bring in all the different unique picks. This time around, also saw, you know, Takeover, Viper, and a lot of the TSM squad in the champions queue, and continuing to play a lot of unique champions, a lot of 80 carries, for instance, on the top side. So if you have somebody playing so aggressively in that way, and, you know, maybe calling the attention, but you should be paying some attention more time towards bot side, maybe some clutter and where you should be spending those resources. So trying to streamline it a bit more may be effective for TSM. And then for Golden Guardians, Stixay on the Aphelios, somebody who is still here as a positional coach until Violet gets here, will continue to play in the games, has been a really solid rock for this team, and even playing more aggressively in some of these games. And we've seen him in the LCS prior, having a lot of fun with the Golden Guardian squad. Yep,
6A is a bit of a rock in the balling, though. Against CLGA, he was tested a fair amount. It was a good series between those two, given that CLG Academy is at the top of the standings. And the Sylas Ari matchup is one that we actually did see in that series yesterday. So getting a bit of a run back here. This time it's Takeover who will be on the Sylas to steal the dashes from the Ari. You know, there's a lot of good ultimates to take, as well as Xin Zhao is a very strong ultimate to steal. So a little early for the Sylas pick, but it is something that people have been playing into the Ari and has success.
And a lot of Takeover's success in the past has been kind of on these fighter champions, scrappy, a lot of melees and things of the like, and not necessarily finding the same success when put onto some of the traditional mages. Though not bad, still has had decent games, just not to the same level that we have seen in the past just yet. And now with a counter over to what is rising as an extremely prominent pick here in the mid lane. So last bans coming through are entirely supports on both sides.
That's what made me go, wow, that's a lot of support bans, as well as Thresh taken out. You also have the Caitlyn, Zeri. 5 bot lane targeted bans for TSM, trying to push Stixay off of some things, I guess. And maybe they'll just go Bard for Chime. It is his surname, I guess you could say. We'll have to see, though, because They also get the J4 coming through for TSM, and it's something that's been targeted a fair amount in drafts recently, is getting rid of the Jarvan, who can camp bot lanes. And ooh, is it solo lane Soraka? No, it's support Soraka? Maybe we'll get, I don't know.
Like,
we don't have a top lane. It could be top lane Soraka still too.
yeah, it could be support Gragas. So
It could. No, I think it's support Soraka. I was hoping for top Raka, and it still could be technically, but I think it's much more likely that it's going bot lane.
Yeah, but still, I mean, with so many bans taken off of the table, and I wonder how much Golden Guardians was anticipating that, right? With the bot lane being a nice lane for them to play through in a lot of their recent matches. So really having to dive deep into that pool, which also means for TSM, they did officially lock in that Lulu with a lot of targets just to keep in this. And hey, a trusty Viper pick getting locked in as well.
You have the Riven, the guaranteed Riven that he always seems to go for when there's not a ton of CC on the enemy team. You know, there's not that much lockdown. There's some point and click stuff like the silence from Soraka might be able to mess with him, but Viper's so good about picking his moments on this champion, knowing exactly when to go in and not get stuffed, that I'm actually really not that worried about it. I expect he'll pick his moments well in these team fights, and maybe he can help lead them to a W, because they are definitely hungry for some wins here in Academy.
Yeah, all right. Who do you have more faith in here? Is it the Riven and Co. on TSM side, the trusted Viper pick that brought him into fame territory? Or is it, you know, Ryoma popping off on the Ari or 6A on the Aphelios as well?
Nameplates on or nameplates off?
Nameplate. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because just no offense to the TSM guys, but they've been struggling, so it's a little hard to predict against Golden Guardians. But in terms of just straight draft, I might have a little bit of preference for the TSM draft. It's 3 divers effectively in the Riven, J4, and Silas who want to go in there, try and blow up Stixay. And, you know, they have the tools to do it. So I like that draft for them, as well as the Lulu option to pick up and speed up the Jinx and whatnot. So it's a pretty cohesive draft all around.
Yeah, and they, because of the lockdown that they have, then sometimes maybe you can bait some of the utility on the opposite side for them to use it as disengage. So you're just taking a lot of those resources out of Golden Guardians' bag if you have control of the game. But this is game number 1, last series of the day, everybody. Golden Guardians taken to the Rift against TSM. TSM want to end the slump that they have been in, have not been able to find victories. So we're looking to them to be a bit more coordinated in this game than they have past. Golden Guardians, while they did suffer a loss and went 1-1 in their previous series and haven't quite necessarily dominated at the top of the standings, they've had a really solid showing throughout, and looking to see how they do against TSM here today.
They'll have to weather a strong early game. It's not bad for them either. Obviously, Xin Zhao can be very strong. He can set up ganks with Ryoma, potentially bot lane as well if the Jinx Lulu are pushing. Land a Soraka Q, slow them, silence, that kind of stuff. But I will say there's 3 lanes of decent setup for TSM, and J4, who is extremely annoying in the early game, can maybe go top, can maybe go mid. Bot lane's a little less setup, but you can still, you know, land a slow and lead to it. So feels like there's a bit of a early game in their favor, though I'd say the mid game then goes into Golden Guardians' favor before maybe late game goes back to TSM. So what I'm saying is this interesting drafts.
All right, I want to see Silas hijack Spirit Rush and go zoom zoom everywhere. That's what
it's gonna happen a lot. That and the Xin ult will be the 2 main targets that you want to look for. Though maybe we'll see a Soraka steal. You never know.
That's true. Really think about supporting the team. Put them on your back in a different way. But that'll be fun to see in the later portions. Lulu, one of those picks that had received a little bit of a nerf, and I believe it was 12.2, but still just so much utility within the kit. I mean, that polymorph, for instance, Yursan, having piloted it, has actually had really good target selection, as a lot of the supports in general have, so can be a key difference maker when any of the members of Golden Guardians hop on you.
And I do like that W start there from Ryoma. I've seen both so far, though. I think W is a little stronger. Just with the changes that went into the Essence Flux. Before, it was how many times you hit a champion with an ability stacking up to 3 times, or a unit, I believe it was. So if you took Q, you could shoot it through minions and stack the passive faster. Now it's more about thefting essence, which makes it pretty strong. They have higher damage, so the W start on Ahri, as well as some targeting enhancements that they put into the AI for the Foxfires, made it all a pretty good option to actually pick up as your first skill. And mana cost went down a lot, so you can spam it like crazy.
Spam for the win. Ryoma with the interesting pickup there. Iconic getting sought out by this ward, though, on this bot side. And Hyper's in the vicinity. Takeover. Oh, that's first blood for Ryoma off of that ignite. A nice feeling. Fox fresh and groomed for the first blood taken.
Oh, now it might transfer down to this Scuttle Crab attempt. Ryoma able to move.
Iconic directly on top of Hyper. Exhaust expelled. Flash in return. Stixay over the wall, able to get some damage, and now turning his sights onto Yerson, who's one auto away. Hyper as well with a little bit of a blast down. 3 kills for Golden Guardians. What a start.
It's a disaster in the bot side for TSM. The solo kill from Ryoma spills down into that Scuttle Crab attempt. Take another look at this. The fact that you are going to be fighting a 4v3 no matter what is dangerous enough. I mean, yes, the Silas can TP back in, but they're not going to wait for that. They immediately hop on him. And then the double knock up there, the third proc of the 3 Talon Strike, interrupting Hyper's EQ out, means it's a very extended chase down sequence. A nice charm by Ryoma sets up the second kill. And this is as bad of a start as you probably could have gotten.
Oh, no. And that's something where Hyper was responding to the intel that they saw Iconic was down bot, so you're hoping to turn it into an advantage or just be there to answer and push him back, but it just ended disastrously, and Golden Guardians giving themselves a nice lead in 2 different lanes here. And then you can even see starting to get some of that itemization off of that back because of that gold that they accrued. But early on, now TSM maybe have to play a little more timidly with no flash on the support, no heal on Jinx. Flash also still not going to be available for Hyper because he initially tried to escape there. And lots of sums expelled over for GG as well, but still more advantages on their side too.
All the flashes being down feels good for a Jarvan. Maybe you can find an angle here and get a kill, but the problem is the Xin Zhao being 1-0-1 will be pretty strong. He can go find you in jungle. You see the advantage in itemization, having the Iron Spike Whip already completed. If you ever bump into him, it's already a tough duel to win, but now it's probably impossible. So the J4 can take advantages of all the summoners being blown, but if the Xin is anyone nearby, Hyper's going to be in a lot of trouble.
So perhaps a bit more timid play in the meantime, while you know that there is a nicely fueled up jungler on the opposite side. And good start for Iconic. I am really curious to just track Iconic's growth throughout the season because he has played very effectively, and one thing that was cited by Anera when they made their roster changes at the start of this year was Iconic's time in Academy would be spent very much focusing on shot calling, trying to grow his voice as a jungler, and be able to be more of a leader in game. So seeing what he's able to do and capitalize upon making plays and being there for the team is something I'm definitely looking at throughout 2022.
I think this is a great game if you want to try and take it over with the Xin Zhao. You know, pull your lanes to you. They should have shove and bot and mid now pretty much 24/7 as we see an all-in attempt again.
Charm when Takeover goes for the control, and another ignite by Ryoma here. Not enough damage laid on prior to be able to finish off the kill, but still great response upon that attempted pressure from Takeover. Viper rotating over from the top side, but easy way for Ryoma to back off and not fall into too much damage. Oh, flash forward. Charm directly under. Ryoma gets popped. Viper rewarded for his rotates.
Not enough respect given to the Viper Riven. I mean, this is what I was saying about Viper knowing his windows so well. He knows the damage windows. Very few people other than Riven mains really know what she's capable of in any given situation, it feels like. And right there, you know, Viper's like, wait, I can 100-0 you. And now he's baiting Tony Top.
Tony Top pushes Hyper away with the ultimate. Explosive cast no longer available. Iconic is here for some additional support, but Takeover is coming too. Level 6 for him. Level 5 Hyper eliminated. Viper now onto the eye, stunned onto Tony Top. Iconic goes in. Can he find another one here? Take over one last slash. Do it. Triple kill for Iconic on the Xin Zhao.
Oh no, I said Viper was baiting Tony Top, but really Viper was baiting the rest of his team. It's a 3-for-0 and a 2v3. The slow collapses. It also means Ryoma gets shoved on mid lane. He can rotate down and put pressure onto the bot lane now. Instinct and Yurson, they see him there. They have to respect this. It won't get killed, but they're still going to get zoned off this entire wave. The turret plate's going over to Stixay. It's already a 4,000 gold lead in Golden Guardian's favor pre-10 minutes. Oh.
That's huge. Turret plates taken, so many kills on the board. The jungler just getting bigger and bigger by the day. I feel like I look away and I come in. It's like a kid that you see from 6th grade to 7th grade. Oh, yeah. You grew in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, Tony Top and Iconic just played that sequence so well, initially kiting out, and then there wasn't any vision for TSM, so they didn't know that Tony and Iconic went back in that brush that allows them to basically assassinate Hyper. And then it's a bit of a series of 1v1s, or 1v2s, excuse me, actually, where Viper then goes in while he's waiting for Takeover to show up, and they just kind of outplay them. I think Golden Guardians deserve a lot of credit for navigating that situation.
So now if you're TSM and you're trying to keep the mental boom at bay, what you turtle up? What do you do? Okay, maybe you try and go for Iconic. That's really beefy boy. Cataclysm activated around, but look at the sling follow up from Viper. Iconic's low, but so is Hyper. Tony Top manages to get one locked down. Ryoma, a charm onto Yurson, who made his rotation. But look at that Yordle. Yordles go pop pretty easily if there's anyone here to follow up on it. So does manage to get under the turret, but there are ones to tank some of this damage. Spirit Rush to get out of the way, but the burn is too good. Ignite kill from Yurson. Says, ooh, I'm taking you down with me by the tail.
All right, not so bad. One traded back at the very end. You asked how not to mental boom. You don't. You go GG. Go next. FF15.
No, Mark. No.
You go. Try and get the reset. This sequence here, it's just so greedy. I respect Iconic holding his ult the entire time, knowing that the only way he dies here is if Viper gets on top of him. They totally forget about the Soraka ult at this point. So they're thinking, all right, if we can kill Iconic, maybe we can win this. But like I said, Iconic keeps Viper off of him. Then the heal comes in. It just leaves this entire chase down sequence. I believe it ends up being a 1-for-3 overall. Ryoma just the slow there at the very end, stopping from getting out of turret range, and the ignite finishing him off, just not able to heal off the creeps the way that you used to be able to do. You actually need to kill them now to heal. So not as easy to lifesteal off them as it used to be on old Ari. But I mean, still, this game is totally boom. It's a 4-0-3. Xin Zhao with his Gore Drinker complete pre-10 minutes. You know, every single lane is popping off. It's I don't know what to do anymore.
Yep. Big ol' spike with that mythic. Big ol' 5k gold lead. Big ol' second dragon up in 45 seconds. The first one taken by Golden Guardians off of all of that pressure that they exuded. So TSM right now just want to stem the bleeding, take out those band-aids from the cabinet, and lay them on in the meantime. This is going to be difficult for them to try and counter any of the pressure that GG put forth right now. You can just see how easily Iconic walks up into their jungle, and just the threat of the advantage he has right now, too strong for them to try to contest. So full plating on this bottom turret will go over to the bot lane.
Don't even have to commit the Rift Herald as well. They can just go ahead and pop that one mid, most likely. It's just, there's no world where TSM can take an even man fight. And because they're so far ahead, Golden Guardians are also able to get a lot of deep vision down and kind of spot out wherever the Jarvan's going to be. There's a pink ward in the top side, so Tony Top knows he's safe, and they're just going to kind of relentlessly pressure these lanes and force TSM off of all these creeps. Look, Stixay's not hitting the turret, though it will eventually die here. The cannon, a little too tanky to die to the turret, but you see the idea. They want to deny as much as possible from them.
Meanwhile, on top, Tony Top gets stunned, hopping in with the Cataclysm. Tony Top throws him back for a little bit. It's not on the own. Viper closing the distance, wants to keep collapsing upon him with the help of Hyper. Tony still alive, though. He just walks the whole time, has a drunken rage. Look, I can heal up a little bit while I'm walking. I can take a little swig of my drink, and I'm fine.
Soraka as well, the ultimate being what really keeps him alive. It came in at the perfect time. Viper just shot his ult out, and it is an execute, so that little bit of extra healing made sure that Tony was not finished off by that. There's that Rift Herald mid that I was talking about coming, as well as the fact that they grab the dragon as well. So a little dicey there in the top lane a little bit. But even if you kill the Gragas, you know, the rest of your team is coming out so far ahead on the rest of the map, it wouldn't have even mattered.
Just imagining Chime's job right now. You know, anytime you play Soraka and then someone's just calling, hey, I'm low, then you just put your camera over to that side and you go, all right, I got you.
I'll be honest, I've messed it up before. I've seen pros mess it up where the heal comes in late or they think they don't need it and then they get popped. Chime has had two really nice ultimates here, both them absolutely changing how the fight was progressing on the opposite side of the map. So I'll give Chime a little bit of respect for the Soraka play so far.
Yeah.
It's not the hardest thing, but
it's good stuff.
Yeah.
See, I have played Soraka a lot when I get it in ARAMs, and it feels real nice there.
You get them all on your screen. You don't need
They're all here. I never have to look away. Up, you low, boom, I hit the R button. It's all good. So, definitely, though, I mean, Soraka is just one of those ones because it is a very valuable resource, too. Then you do have to be selective when you use it for individual members as well, because the enemy team can often capitalize knowing, okay, next time we get in a skirmish, that's a resource that's not available. And right now, he's worked into the Moonstone, so when it comes to those skirmishes, just going to offer even extended healing for the rest of the team, which is going to be nasty.
And you can see grabbing a total of they only missed 2 turret plates. I was too lazy to add up all the math in my head. So they missed 2 turret plates, 14 minutes turret plating drop, but there's so much pressure just to defend that Rift Herald. You know, it allows Stixxay to get alone time with this top turret as well. This one will be dropping any minute now as Ryoma and Iconic complete their rotation off to the top side. Might get a dive off as well.
Yeah, Stixxay so far ahead from Instinct here, who now gets knocked up. The Polymorph response onto Iconic, Wild Growth onto TSM Instinct, so that'll allow him to survive. Another Soraka ultimate comes through for that extra level of sustain. Yurasan blocked out of it. Viper, the subject of an exhaust. He tries to slam down with the Valor onto Chime with the safety of this turret, but Takeover and Hyper are completely separated from the rest of the fight. So as soon as that charm hits under the turret, there's nothing really that they can do about it. So now Hyper backing off once again. GG. Keep their eyes on your son. Blast Cone can only get you so far, my buddy. A few more shots should do it from Ryoma here. And boom, taking out that little old Lulu. Golden Guardians extend their lead.
10,000 gold at 15 minutes. Absolutely disgusting lead. And to be honest, that wasn't even that well played by Golden Guardians, but you get to see the wallet diff come through there, just slapping them over the head with how far ahead they are in experience. And gold and items and even just map pressure, being able to take these super aggressive paths while TSM have to run through their own jungle in safe ways. So this game's not getting any better anytime soon.
Well, that wallet has evolved into a phone book of bills, and it hits pretty hard when you slap them with it. So yeah. Golden Guardians really showing a lot of control over this game. I mean, look at the bounties across both of the solo laners and the jungler here, and TSM just, it's really because of those early advantages that Golden Guardians have had and not having the power to be able to stand up against it. So what do? You're looking towards that scaling. You're looking towards as much safety as possible until you can get on more even footing.
Scaling copium.
Scaling copium.
I'll say, I think one of the issues that TSM are having, not just in this game, but a little bit through their whole time in Academy right now, is having not any veteran that you can kind of lean on to help the younger air quotes players. That is kind of Viper, but in the top lane, you're more disconnected from the rest of your team. So even though, you know, Viper was able to roam mid in that one sequence, find that kill on Ryoma, you know, you're not really connected the way a jungler or a support or a mid laner, even an 80 carry can be for that team. And we've seen it time and time again in the LCS and in Academy that when too many young players are put together in a position, they sometimes have like the opposite of better than the sum of their parts. I don't know what it is, but like you end up looking worse than the sum of your parts, because I don't think individually anyone on TSM is terrible or anything like that. But when there's not one factor that like game in, game out will be a consistent part for you on your entire mid and bot side of the map, then it becomes really hard to find footholds in a lot of games and stuff. And I think that's one of the issues that they're bumping into. Somewhat similar to what Golden Guardians' main roster last year in the LCS ran into when they had Chime and Iconic and Niles all in there. You know, at different points in time.
And as the Rift Herald slams into this tier 2 over down bot for Golden Guardians, they look for more opportunities to dismantle TSM in the face of that lack of a voice, of not necessarily finding a way to create a very clear game plan for them to follow up here, because we're at about 18 minutes into this game. 2 Drax stacked up for themselves, or Drakes, so now they're going to get this soul point. Another Infernal Soul on the docket, and really no contest because of everything they were able to expel on that bot lane to push up that pressure and not allow any entry point for TSM here.
I mean, pre 18 minutes, they're already knocking on the inhibitor in the bot lane, chumping that one pretty low. As soon as they get this reset off the Infernal, you know, Golden Guardian's going to get back on the map, take these next 2. You can see them pinging those inner turrets, and Ryoma saying, hey, I got a flank on the takeover here. Could be in trouble. The rest of the team has a path in.
Ooh, teleport to get out of it. And I mean, Takeover knew he needed to do that, because prior to getting to the base right now, he was just working on that Lost Chapter. Now finally able to finish off that Everfrost, but nothing to be able to offset what Ryoma was bringing to him.
Yeah, an 18-minute Mythic that's Everfrost is pretty slow feeling. And like you said, just barely able to get out there. Ryoma missed his Everfrost. He had the right idea, knowing he was recalling in there, but just didn't land the root on him. And here you see the setup now. Mid lane pushed in, top lane pushed in, complete control of the topside jungle. I mean, Hyper just has nowhere that he can farm. He's going to be sliding out of this game. And Iconic had a huge monster performance. I think you owe him, really, for jump-starting this entire game plan. Yes, Ryoma got the solo kill, which allowed him to move first, but the way Iconic played that initial skirmish of knocking Jarvan up out of his own dash was what allowed that entire chase down sequence to occur. So multiple members of Golden Guardians having really good early games.
A beautiful triple kill from Iconic in that moment to really extend that lead. And he's playing a lot of the traditional junglers we're seeing, well, with the Xin Zhao and then the Viego and then the Diana as well. So a lot of good, you know, target isolation, team fight orientation with things like the Diana. So very focused on making sure he can be that central point as the jungler for Golden Guardians that they can work around.
I think Golden Guardians as a whole, when you talk about their drafts like that they are more focused on the standard things. They haven't done some of the wackier stuff that's possible in this meta, whether that be the enchanters, the roaming tops, or any of the even more niche picks that are available. And I think that makes sense for a squad that has the potential to push high into the academy standings, as well as want to develop some of those players. Like you said, Iconic working on shot calling and like what their goals are for improvement are less champion specific. So I think it makes sense that they have slightly more standard drafts. Even this one here, while you know, incorporating the Soraka, which is an interesting pick and slightly different, it's still, you know, a supportive enchanter combined with 2 tanky topside and then some playmaker with Ryoma and a backline DPS and Stixay. They all have a very nice feel to their drafts.
And with Golden Guardians and just the way that they end up approaching the season and their competitive structure, I've always appreciated they're very rep oriented. I mean, that was one thing last year towards the end of the season. Their academy squad had done a lot of participation in the third-party events, and this Golden Guardian squad specifically was also getting a lot of games in, even in between academy. I mean, that was the big thing of lock-in. They were competing in lock-in, in academy, in the Unified Grand Prix.
Right.
And it really, when you're looking at the team, which it's funny because Stixay isn't the final piece, so Violet will come through and then they'll have to synergize with him as well. But when you're looking at a team and you're wanting to develop the voices, make sure that their macro is feeling strong, that they know how to keep themselves in the game against a variety of compositions, a variety of game states, then that is one way to approach it. And I feel like we're seeing the results of that in their most recent play, where it's not the draft itself where you see a lot of that crazy dynamicism, but it is just in the frequency with which they are getting this competition and allowing them to shore up their individual and team duties. As now, 21 and a half minutes into the game, the Baron's getting started up. A Jinx rocket for some intel. So TSM knows that this is getting started. Ryoma is with the zoning duties on the outskirts of this pit, taking out some of the warding. Sweepers galore. Takeover goes in for it, but can't get the lock-in. A charm after the Orb of Deception. Tony Talk goes in. Takeover. Wild Growth is his next best friend. The polymorph onto the top laner here, but Viper, the next target as well. Look at that slam down. Ryoma getting the kill credit for that one. Blast Cone to separate Instinct from Ryoma, and Instinct does make it into the base safely, so no more kills to be got.
No kills to be got. The double blast cone providing safety there, but Still a very nice turn there by Golden Guardians. I especially like Tony Top's roam. This is one of the things I was calling up pre-game, that Tony Top movement on the map has been more impressive in recent weeks right there. Not needing to go for a TP flank, which can be more telegraphed, just saying, hey, I got to push bot lane, I'm going to run first. And he's there for his team on that turn. As soon as Ryoma lands that charm, he's able to go right away because he made the movement on foot. And that allowed a very easy team fight for Golden Guardians. I like the decision to grab the inhibitor here. It'll relieve or kind of auto push, so you can go back and do that Baron bait again. And you won't need to worry about shoving the waves yourself this time.
And there you have it. Dragon Soul acquired by Golden Guardians Academy. Feels like the Dragons have been the easiest thing for them to take off the map, always just following up after pressure they exert in these fights. So nicely stacked for them to dish out that additional damage in their next skirmishes.
I'm viewing this game a bit like almost a drill in a traditional sports setting, in like a scrimmage or something, where it's less about, you know, winning at this point for Golden Guardians. It's kind of a shoe-in, but like how cleanly can you execute? Like that there in turn was pretty well done, having, like I said, the Tony Top rotation and stuff. Now, how well can you bait it again? You have complete control, clear out these wards. Are you going to miss any, like, for example, that one in the top river brush? You're going to be able to get complete vision control because yes, TSM's going to lose this game. Yes, TSM will not really contest this Baron, but you still want to see them checking all the boxes and not skipping steps, because the next time you do this, you might not be 14k ahead, you might be 6k ahead, and then if you skip steps, it's actually going to punish you.
And it's not like we haven't seen it before, where a team that is monstrously ahead just get a little too greedy and a little bit more towards, okay, this game's won, let's just go ahead and end it. And then that's when you lose those chances of, oh, there's Dragon Soul available. We should probably rotate to that after getting this inhibitor. Oh, now the Baron is opportune for them to try and take again. So let's make sure that Chime and Ryoma here on the outskirts with Tony can keep everyone zoned off effectively, because they were much farther this time at the start of this than prior. So the Baron gets burned down. They do kill the Lulu as well. Wild Growth was still available, I believe. So that's a resource that couldn't be utilized by TSM in trying to go against this. Hyper positioning for the potential steal. Ends up Eing in, but can't do it. Iconic secures it on his own. So you take out Hyper after taking out the support, and the 3 remaining members of TSM are so vulnerable in their base now.
Golden Guardian's going to be able to close this one out with that Baron buff. They already have the mid inhibitor down. Just grab those minions, escort them in. If I want to be hypercritical, I could say that wasn't necessarily the cleanest Baron attempt with how low Iconic got, but at the same time, it's hard to ignore how ahead they were. This will be the game.
The last stand here, it's not strong enough thus far, though. Stixay picking up another one. Use of the explosive cast to say, you can't get to your fountain. You're going to come right into the face of my 80 carry. A triple kill for Stixay. Hyper, a very small circle for him in this fountain right now. The last one standing. One more Nexus turret for GG to try and clash through the Baron empowered minions directly on their back. As low as Chime is, he doesn't care. They take this one a statement game with a 25-50 minute finish for Golden Guardians against TSM.
A 20-2, 25-minute shellacking by Golden Guardians. I mean, that game was over basically at minute 5, and it did not look any better over the course of the next 20 minutes.
Dang. Yeah, that was real good play from Golden Guardians. Are you impressed, Mark?
I was very impressed. I think Ryoma showing such understanding of that matchup. You know, we talked about him getting some experience on it yesterday. Really showed that experience today, and just the whole team's communication and how they were moving around the map and collapsing on the jungle fights when they broke out.
Yeah. Solid scoring for Golden Guardians across this game. Good on them. Just game number 1, though. They do have a second opportunity to try and 2-0 it, whereas TSM could try and swing things over in their favor. Time for us to take a break. When we return, we'll be getting you into it.